Hi, David Vizard here, and this is our number 5 budget parts sale. A lot of the parts we've got for sale here are ones that are left from our pre-Christmas sale. That's because we anticipated not selling that much before Christmas, but we wanted the space. Now, in this edition here, number 5, we're going to give a discount of 10% off everything that we've priced. A few things have sold from the last sale, so they are subtracted and out of the deal. The other thing that I want to add here into this is the fact that Terry has got a big block Chevy that the general value is brand new. It's only been dynoed. The general value of would be about $32,000. I showed what we did with it in the episode that will go by across the screen at the top here, and you can read all about it there. But it makes 1,060 horsepower. It's totally street drivable. It just needs a water injection, a $300 water injection system put on it, and it will run pump gas, right? It's got really good torque. It's pumping out just about 1.4 something foot-pounds per cube. So it definitely will pull stumps out of the ground. Now, this has got to go. I have this sneaking suspicion that Terry is getting ready to retire. So he's going to sell all the parts he's collected, then maybe sell the business. But don't hold me to it on that. Now, he wants $21,000 for this engine. That is a 34% discount on what you would expect to pay from it from a good engine builder elsewhere. So, it's ready to go. It has got everything you need on it, including a dry sump and all that good stuff. If that's going to fit your bill, check it out and the video I did on it, and then go for it. Right, now as far as the other parts are concerned, they're pretty much as they were in the previous video. Now, I'd like you to get to it as soon as possible on this because we do need the space. I am still up to here in parts, and Terry, he's been doing this longer than I have, that is collecting parts and not selling them. He's still got a large room which is probably 900 square feet by 20 feet high, and you can still barely move for parts in there that he's got for sale, plus 2 more smaller rooms elsewhere which I daren't go into yet. But anyway, let's get back onto this and go through what we've got. I've deducted the parts that are for sale, and I'm just repeating those that we've still got for sale. So here they are. First, the inevitable purchase instructions. This is block item A. It's a newly bored block, but it's been sitting in my shop for about a year. This block is to go through the wash tank and be finish honed. Normally blocks like this go for $700, $750. Cam bearings are in it. Price for this, $450. Here's item B. This is a highly modified 5/0 block. It has 4-bolt mains on it with splay bolts to hold the block together, because that's the way it tends to break, that way. It's also got a half fill of concrete in the block, and it's all prepped, ready to go. It'll take a stroke up to 3.5. It's all clearanced, so it's an immediate 347 build, maybe as much as 355 if you use a slightly longer stroke. Now, it looks pretty dirty here. That is all grease. Before it's shipped, it will be washed. Let me turn it over and show you from the other side. Again, what you see on the top of the block is grease, solvent grease. Now I want you to notice this reinforcing plate in here. Right, all this has been decked out. This block should be able to take around about 1,000 horsepower. So it would be an ideal small block Ford build for a nitrous motor or a turbo motor or any supercharged motor. So price for this, $1,200. Compare that price with any other block you can get out there that will take 1,000 horsepower. Nothing will come near it for the money. This item C, it is a 400 block that David McCoy and I, and David was my race partner when we were racing the Malibu, were building for the class of street something or other. And that's the one where we show the final round against the guy that won it, and we came in very, very close second place there with our 383. Well, this was going to be a 421-inch engine, which was the class limit. Now, it was going to be a fairly much all-out effort. So, this block has lots of things done to it. First off, it's got a block fill half depth. So it's that deep of water before you get to the concrete. It's got the standpipes. It has the drain back holes all enlarged and how shall I say, oil flowed. There's the standpipes. All the lifter bores are done. It's been decked. I think it's like about 2/1000 under a 9-inch block, and it has considerable work on the underside. But before we get there, let's take a look at the bores they aren't talking about yet. But in a series a little earlier on, I did say I'd tell you what they are probably doing. If you look at the bore, you can probably see that it still shows honing marks. Now, if we don't shine a light on it, but we run our fingers down it, or fingernail, there's no way we can feel that honing. Normally you would. That's because these bores are finished one stage further than Greg Anderson is showing in one of his videos he does with Lake Speed. This is what I call linear chemical honing. I've put a brief shot of it being done in, but so far I'm not talking about the process as such. This is what I call linear chemical honing. It takes all the raggedness out of the honing finish and leaves a finish which the ring sees as a super polished finish. Yet the RA number barely changes, and the size difference for this finishing process can't be measured unless you've got something that measures in 1/100th of a thousandth. Most of us don't have that. I've got a 40 millionth style gauge, and it's difficult to, with that, even to see how much we've taken out. Now the beauty of this is that the bores don't have to self-machine to be finished. They are already finished size, so break-in, if the rings are prepped properly, is instant. By the time the engine's warmed up, it's broken in. I'll talk about how you can do a simplified version of this in my one of my upcoming videos. It's difficult to know what price to charge for this block because of all the fancy stuff done to it. However, I also mentioned it's near Christmas, so the price should come down, but also because it's not finished on the underside, that is the radius on the bottom of the bores and the radius on the ledge on the top of the mains. You can see that as you look down the bore. Then I'm going to reduce the price from what I expected to get, i.e. somewhere around $1,700 to $1,250. Now, does that sound like a deal for a block that if you paid me to do, you'd be looking at probably $4,500? Here's the underside of the block. As you can see, it's been line honed. Also, we've put in angled mains caps. Let me show you those. First thing I want to show here is the fact that where the oil pump bolts, it's all been ported so it's got a clean flow into the block. Now, the block work is not completed here, but you'll have to do this yourself. It needs this bit here rounding off, and the pipe, the drilling that I'm showing just here needs to be radiused off so that the oil comes out and spreads around the filter easier. Also, the bores need rounding off at the bottom here, and the mains caps need doing. Now I'm going to show you that from this angle. And as far as the mains caps go, or the main webs rather, they need this corner here that I'm showing with my thumb rounding off so that as the piston comes down the bore and the air and oil is following it, it goes over that lip much easier. That and the block's done. But let me get one of the mains caps. Here's the 4-bolt mains caps. Now, we do have a shortage of bolts here, right? That's because over a period of time I've pirated odd bolts that I needed or somebody needed. So whoever gets this block is going to have to order these bolts here from ARP, or you can get a complete new set from Terry Walters, but that will be in addition to the price of the block. I think that's it for about everything on this block. So what I need you to do now is check out the parts we have for it that will constitute the major parts for a 421 build. Is item D, or at least one of item D. This is a set of race JE pistons. As you can see it under there, JE. And this is one of a set of 8, brand new, never been used, that were for the 427 build. We planned on having a compression ratio somewhere in the 13 to 14 to 1, hence the dome on it. You'll notice these are rounded off here like all good pistons should be. The piston is ready, is the size ready to use in the block that I've just shown you, and it takes a 6-inch rod. From Jegs, these pistons are $1,068 a set, including pins and pin locks. Our price, $700. That's a 40% discount. Well, the next item, that would be item E, is a set of scat lightweight rods. Let me just show you what they look like. This is a lightweight scat rod. These are identifiable by this lightning hole in here, but they're a good bit lighter than the regular rod, I think. I'm not absolutely sure, but the heat treatment is different on these rods to the other rods. That's why they're more expensive. But anyway, weight, they weigh a little less than a stock rod. These rods weigh in at a slim 565 grams. That is about 50 grams, or getting on that way, lighter than a stock rod. Now the big end is for bearings to suit a 2.1 rod journal size. So what we've got here is a rod that in our 421 is good for probably around about 8,000 RPM. We wouldn't see that in practice because the engine would have to breathe through a restrictor. So, but nonetheless, it's a lightweight rod and it will get the job done. It's surplus to requirements because the guy that originally ordered this is now an invalid, and so the engine never got built. It was intended for a 355-inch drag race small block Chevy to go in a gas dragster, a front-end nostalgic dragster. At the time, Andy and I thought we could pick up this project, but it proved not to be the case. We just had too much work. But let me show you the details of the crank. First off, hollow journals. That's to make the crank both lighter and stronger. The leading and trailing edges, that's the trailing edge shown here, are windaged so that they direct the oil towards the mains caps and not back into where the rods are frailing around. On Scat's sort of cost no object crank, the inside of the counterweights is machined to fully lighten it. This is the crank before that model. So this is like the ultralight, not the super light crank. The flange of the crank is cut like this just to save about another 8 ounces on the way to the crank. Not much in terms of moment of inertia, but it is a half a pound you don't have to carry. Some of you are probably noting that this crank isn't all that shiny. That's because I got it out of the box about a half an hour ago. This is the protective grease that it's packed in. This crank is brand new. It has just seen the light of day since it left Scat. Depending on the year and the forging, the stock cranks normally go from 53 to 55 pounds. As you can see, this crank is about 5 to 7 pounds lighter than a stock crank. That equates to about a 12 to 15% reduction in moment of inertia. Depending on what time of the year it is, the typical jegs or summit prices range from $1,100 to $1,250. Our price, just $875. The test was to see if these valves would work better than the ones we had, and they did. The AFR valves aren't just valves. AFR designs these on the flow bench, and very often we've been able to change valves to AFR valves and to find a little bit of horsepower. Not much. Now let's have a look and see what the price of these is. Summit's regular price for these valves is 176. Ours is 97. Like I said, they're not brand new. They are almost brand new. You'd have to look really closely to see if they've ever been used. All I've done to them is put them in some cleaner that cleaned off the carbon. If you inspect the seats very carefully, you can see that there are indications that they've been landing on seats at high RPM. But you've got to be sharp to be able to spot it. Like I said, Our price, 97 bucks. This is item L. This will tell you what they are immediately. There's some small block Chevy race valves, 20516. Brand new, never been used. Now, I usually get my valves from Ferrea, but I wanted to see what these SBI brand valves were like, as they were quite a bit cheaper. This is the brand, SBI. The numbers on these are 01765R and 01770R. That's intake and exhaust. Let me pull one out to show you what they look like. Now, the shop price for these is 212 bucks as of the other day. That's what somebody in the trade gets them for. I'm not going to unwrap it, but there they are. They're pretty decent valves, and that's the exhaust valve there. Here's the intake. Now, you'll notice our price is 150 bucks. That is what, about 35% off of the dealer price, or that's the exhaust. So, good valves. Probably not as good as some $500 a set Ferrea valves, but nonetheless a pretty decent valve. Like I said, this is our price here. This might be just what somebody in the trade's looking for. A $65 discount on what they would get them from SBI or any of their outlets. Absolutely for certain, item M is the bargain of the year. These are some Flowtech 200cc intake port Chevy heads. Now, these heads are an offshore manufacturer. They're modeled after a top of the line as-cast Dart head. They're premium one, so they do flow good. Now, I started on modifying these, and this chamber here is roughed out. That's the only one done on the pair. So if all the chambers are done to that, then they will be right on the money as far as the chambers go. Ports, get my book on cylinder head porting and it will show you how to do these heads. Now, if all you did was bolt them together and have that odd chamber there, they are usually good over a stock iron head, even the Vortec head. Let's compare them with the Vortec head, right? They're good for around about 25 horsepower more than the Vortec head. But of course, they're only half the weight. Now, the thing is you won't buy a pair of brand new Vortec heads for 300 bucks. So these are a better deal than the Vortec heads. Can't think of anything else other than the fact I started doing these and ended up in hospital with back problems, not because I was working on the heads, but they just got left for about 3 months while I was convalescing, and I just didn't pick up on it again with the workload I had. Anyway, $300, and if you want them with valves and springs and the other stuff, then give Terry a call. He can get you some single valve springs that really work well, and they don't cost much. They actually work better than a lot of duals. They'd be good for about 6,500, 7,000 RPM. He can get you the retainers, springs, and some SBI valves on the cheap. So you should have a very low cost set of heads. Now, if you were to buy these heads from Summit, their cost, all sprung up with the valves in, is $460 each. That means that's 920 bucks. If you get the stuff from Terry, you'll probably get in the deal for less than 500 overall. But Terry will see to that. So when you call him in for these heads, ask what the valves, springs, retainers, keepers, etc. would cost. Well, that about sums up this sale. And don't forget, if you subscribe, you'll get pre-notification of the sale, and you'll get a day's head start on actually making your bids. So, with that said, let me just remind you not to forget to subscribe, notify, ring the bell, and all that good stuff. I'll see you on the next sale. Thank you for watching.